Yeah, so hello everyone. Good day. Good morning to some of you all. And good afternoon for those in Bangkok, I guess in Malaysia as well. Um, my name is Melissa Payne, and I'm from the Southeast Asia Rainforest Research Partnership. So we are actually a science organization, and we are based in Kota Kinabalu, Sabah, Malaysia. And today I would like to share with you a little bit about our ongoing project, which is funded by the SGP, which is a Small Grants Program in Malaysia, where we are working with our local partners in exploring the potentials of an OECM approach in our country. You could go on, if you have a scanner, you can go on to our project webpage to get more information on it. So yeah, the overall aim of our project is to strengthen area-based in situ conservation of biodiversity in Malaysia by determining the policies, the legal and institutional pathways towards recognizing and reporting OECMs alongside protected areas. So this is actually a 2-year project. We started last year in October and we're expected to end next year in September. So our project is led by a team from SERP, myself and a few of my other colleagues. And we are very much supported by an advisory group who are made up of national and subnational focal points in Malaysia, in our state, in Malaysia as well as key individuals who are actively working across conservation works in our country. And an important component as well as part of our project is we continuously engage with our partners and stakeholders across the states, including our partner at the OECM task force, which is Harry. Okay, diving into the main component of how we are running our project here in Malaysia is actually we divided our project into 4 main components. Firstly is to explore and to identify the potentials of OECMs in Malaysia. So we actually started off in November last year with an online call, so nationwide, to invite stakeholders across Malaysia to submit case studies of potential OECMs, of marine, terrestrial, coastal, and freshwater OECMs. Secondly, the second component of our project is to analyze and actually to develop strategies to recognize OECMs in Malaysia. Since we just kind of started this project, so it's very exploratory at this stage. And in terms of analyzing and coming up with strategies, this will be done by our project team with the support and advice from our advisory group to actually look into the assessment of like a strategic policy assessment, especially in the challenges and opportunities of implementing the OECM approach in a Malaysian context. The third component of the project is to agree on the pathways on how do we report OECMs at national and subnational focal points to the CBD, as well as to the World Database on Protected Areas. And finally, which is also a very important area in our project, is we will, from the beginning of the project and up to date as well now, we continuously engage with our stakeholders, share our information, share our progress, especially in exploring together with them the potentials of the OECM approach here in the country. So today I would like to kind of share with you so far the progress of our project and where we are at now. So I explained earlier about the 4 main components, the focal areas of our project. We are in the midst of the first main component of the project, which is to investigate and identify potential OECMs in Malaysia. So I'll give a little bit of a timeline of how we started and where we are at now. So now we're at the stage of conducting site-based assessments at potential OECM sites across Malaysia. And we are evaluating whether these sites actually meet the OECM criteria as defined by the IUCN. So as I mentioned earlier on, that the project is supported by an advisory group, which we think is a very crucial component as well, because this is the concept and the approach of OECM is very new, and we're trying to gather a lot of interest in different expertise across Malaysia. So our advisory group is made up of various individuals from different backgrounds who share the common interest in exploring the OECM approach in Malaysia. And the advisory group provides advice specifically on site-based assessment processes, including the selection of potential OECM sites, and also advising us on the other key components of the project. Yeah, so we do have a member from our main funder as well, SGP Malaysia, and Harry Jonas as well is also a member of our advisory group. From the outset of the project, as I mentioned earlier on, it is important that from the beginning, we engage with various stakeholders, not only limiting to government or NGOs, but we do engage with a lot of other government departments besides Forestry Department here in Sabah or in other states in Malaysia. We engage with the private sector, so plantations, timber companies, NGOs, CSO, local community representations, and academics and institutions as well. So these were conducted through consultations and meetings since October last year, and we still continue doing it until this month. So in order for us to kind of identify and assess what are these OECM sites, what do they look like in Malaysia? So in November last year, we held an open call for case studies on our project webpage, and we left it there for about 1.5 months. And at the end of January, early February, we received over 40 case studies from across different sites, marine, terrestrial, from different governance types as well. And with the guidance of and the application of the OECM screening tool that Harry shared earlier on in his slide, so we use that as a basis to select the potential sites that could be an OECM. We also consulted with our advisory group, and we reviewed all 40 case studies together with the group. And out of the 40 case studies, based on consensus of all the advisory group members, we shortlisted 19 sites that would be carried forward to the assessment stage. So as you can see in the slide here I've shared, so we've got quite a good number of variety of different governance types. So we agreed together with the advisory group to, at least since this is very new, we wanted to explore how it would work if different governance types were assessed as an OECM. So after shortlisting the 19 possible potential OECM sites that would be carried forward to the next stage, a very important component or element that is also mentioned in the technical guidance and the methodology is to actually to go through the permissions or the consent process. This is basically to get consent from the site authorities, from the 19 sites. So your FPIC process is very key during this period. So for this project, we contacted all of the 19 shortlisted sites. So we contacted the site authorities and we conducted briefings. We let them know what they will be involved in the later stage, which is the site-based assessment stage. And we also invited them and to see if they had the interest to kind of continue on and explore with us, the project team and advisory, of how the OECM approach could actually work for their sites. So once the site authorities informed us that they're interested. We then sent them a formal invitation with information about the site-based assessments, what does it entail, and together with that, a consent form as well. So this is a consent form for the site authorities to sign in order to formalize the permissions that they would be included and interested to carry on this journey of exploring the OECM approach. So for this, actually, we adapted the consent form from the OECM methodology. So if you go on to the OECM methodology, as Harry mentioned earlier on as well, so there's details about how do you do your consent and what the questions are included in the consent form. So once consent has been obtained from site authorities, meaning to say that the real site-based assessment process starts. We are currently at the stage now. We were supposed to kind of start in April or May this year, but due to COVID and the restrictions of movements and traveling within states in Malaysia, we've only managed to re-enter sites and contacted site authorities earlier this month. So the site-based assessment process involves 3 stages, which is firstly a desk review. So we would have to analyze the materials and information supplied by the site authority. And this will be followed by site visits. So project teams, my colleagues, will be going down to the sites together with the site authority to validate all the information, the site profile and the materials that were provided during stage 1. And after validation of the site profiles, we will evaluate each of the site profiles together, consulted by consulting the advisory group to assess the suitability of the sites, whether or not it could be an OECM as well. So throughout this process, we use the IUC and WCPA guidance as a basis, so both the technical guidance and the methodology tool. So the final evaluation of sites will result in developing a site-based report, which will cover the assessment outcome. So the assessment outcome of each of these sites, so the shortlisted sites that I mentioned earlier on, we would produce a site report, and based on the OECM methodology tool and the technical guidance as well. So there's information about what sites would actually fall into the green or the yellow or the red system. So we'd have to justify. So for example, if from the site-based assessment and validation of site profiles, we identify that one of the sites after evaluation and advice from the advisory group, we realize that it falls under the red category, then we would have to provide justifications of why they actually fall into the red category. And also, if they actually fall in the yellow, we might also as well include some recommendations of how they could improve or other additional interventions or changes that would help them to actually fully satisfy the criteria and fall into the green category. So the final assessment will also provide us with insights from the sites that would actually help us inform the strategic policy review on how OECMs can be recognized in Malaysia, as well as become a learning process for Malaysia on how the OECM approach could actually operate and benefit the country, because at this point, we are still in the early stages and we're still exploring the benefits and how we could actually make this more of an OECM in the Malaysian context. So at the end of our project, this 2-year project, we are expected to deliver 4 main key outputs, which include a portfolio of OECM, so the case studies of the sites in the Malaysian context. Also the recommendations for recognizing OECMs in Malaysia. A guidance manual for identifying and assessing as well as reporting OECMs in Malaysia, and also to agree on the pathway or the route to report OECMs to the subnational, national focal points of CBD, as well as to the WDPA. And also to continuously engage and share with our stakeholders nationwide and internationally as well of the Malaysian process, and hopefully at the end of the project, the potentials that we could see here in Malaysia. So just to kind of wrap up my sharing session today is there seems to be a potential for the OECM approach to generate opportunities for equitable and effective conservation outcomes in Malaysia. So these could be enabling inclusion of non-state or non-government actors in delivering conservation outcomes. So as Harry mentioned earlier on, not only focusing on governance by government, but also looking at areas which are managed and conserved by local communities or privately owned lands or shared governance. So it's interesting to see that as well here happening in Malaysia. As well as to strengthen conservation of biodiversity outside of PAs. So we've got a lot of important areas which are not protected legally here in Malaysia, which have high biodiversity value and delivers long-term conservation outcomes. And I think with recognizing OECMs here, it could really strengthen important areas outside of the protected area network. Also to improve landscape connectivity. However, just before I end, as I mentioned earlier on, this is a very exploratory project. In Malaysia, the OECM system does not exist yet, and it is the role of this project to continue to engage with our stakeholders, to consult with our advisory group, to engage with stakeholders internationally, to explore what are the benefits and the opportunities of the OECM approach. So with that, I'll end here. I'm happy to talk more if you want to get more information about our progress here in Malaysia. Feel free to email me or you can contact Vincent directly. Thank you.